Hi, I'm Wade Hanson. I've been selling luxury real estate in Minnesota and Wisconsin for over 23 years. My entire career has been spent protecting my clients from misinformation and unethical practices by those not looking out for their best interests. This podcast will give you the raw truth about everything real estate so you can make solid, informed decisions about the biggest investment of your lifetime. This is the Raw Real Estate Podcast. Mia and Dylan, thank you both for being here. I appreciate it. I know you've both been with me now for almost 5 years, but just give the listeners a little background on where you got started in business, how long you've been in the business, and where you are today. So Dylan, maybe you go first.
Yeah, I got licensed when I was 19, so I've been selling real estate for 11 years, I think now. I'm 30, so sold real estate all through college, then graduated, flushed my education down the drain. Not the best use of $130,000 that I racked up there, but and then just kept going full time, and here we are. Okay. So,
and tell me where you started.
I was licensed in just Wisconsin for my first few years because I was a full-time college student, not fully all in. Mm-hmm. But I was with Keller Williams on a pretty good sized team at the time. Largest team, I think, in Western Wisconsin, okay. I would say. And we had probably the highest production, I would say. And then that was Keller Williams for quite a while.
It's a good place to cut your teeth and learn, right, on a big team like that.
Yep.
So and you've been with me now, I think, 4 years for you and 5 years for me.
A little over 4 for me.
Yeah. Okay. Mia, tell me where you started, how long you've been doing it.
I started at Keller Williams. I've been in the business for about 9 or 10 years now. At Keller, I started with an independent agent. Worked for her for a couple years, and then I moved over also to Team Krenz, where I met Dylan and worked with Dylan. Was there for at least 2 years, and then I started working for you.
You've survived 5 years.
I have survived 5 whole years with Wade Hanson.
And then I missed her so much, I left and followed her.
That's right. You guys were on the same team.
We were on the same team, right. So we knew each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always worked as an assistant.
Okay. And your role now with us is you're our client services manager, full-time admin, and basically the heartbeat of our company right now for what we do. So, okay. So tell me a little bit about just working for me versus working, I guess, us versus where you were at before, and some of the differences in where you were and where you are now, and why maybe you've stayed here as long as you have. All right, I'm not the easiest person in the world to work for, so tell me some of the differences and why you're here.
I guess for me, I remember interviewing with you, I think it was on a Tuesday, and I was like, this guy is number one in the county. I mean, he's, top in the state. I mean, he's just, a big producer, and I was impressed that you worked so hard. And that upcoming weekend, I think that was a Tuesday, you had told me you had 2 or 3 open houses that you were doing. And I was just like, this guy does that many open houses. I was just so shocked that you still did that and worked that hard, because you don't need to do those, but you do. And that was a big, that was just really awesome to see that you're not just successful, but you're still grinding continuously to stay successful and constantly improve. And I thought that was a big, just impressive.
Is any differences between where you were before and where you are now, that good or bad, right? I mean, is there anything that stands out to you as to, why this feels like the right fit compared to where you were? Or?
Yeah, I think where I was probably the highest producer on the team for a little bit, and now I'm forever chasing you. So I can never get very close at all, no matter how hard.
Not many agents can.
This year you came pretty close.
Yeah. But as far as that, I mean, just I don't get micromanaged quite as much. The broker is a lot more kind of, you're successful, you know what you're doing, just go off and do it. Like, we're not gonna, shove a bunch of classes down your throat, and we're not gonna just,
make you door knock, make you cold call, make
it's just a different environment here. It's not gossipy. It's not. It's
Yeah.
you know, it's quiet. It's a quiet office. I can come in and be here for hours and leave without getting cornered by somebody to ask, you know, what I had for dinner last night and things like that. So I like that, you know, that I can just kind of come and go, and it's a little bit, you know, everybody here just is here to work really hard. And I don't see people in the office here that are not producers, you know. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, good. Well, you, Mia, what differences between where you were? I know your roles are a little bit different. You wear a lot of hats here. You kind of wore just one hat, I think, where you were before. Just elaborate a little bit on that.
I would say it's just a whole another level of professionalism and expertise. And it challenges me, it challenges Dylan. I've become a new person working for you for sure.
Hopefully not in a bad way.
No, a little bit more salty than I used to be. The saltiness has rubbed off a little bit.
But
but
I think a lot of agents just get so complacent and they don't, you know, they think they're improving.
Growing.
Yeah, but I mean, they think they're improving by going to these, you know, stupid classes all day, and they sit there and they learn from people who don't even sell more than they do, and they think that they're bettering themselves by doing this, you know, and that's it, and they don't. Their business never changes. They don't actually implement things that they learned. They don't do, and like you said, we're never happy with what we do. Like, we're always trying to be better, you know, and we don't need a class to tell us that. We just have such, like our standards are different, you know, for how we do business, for how we communicate, for how we, you know, just handle everything. It's like an unmatched level of everything. So.
You guys are both told not to come work for me, right?
Yeah.
Weren't you threatened? Wasn't your life threatened to say don't ever work for Wade?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Someone said, I remember, I don't know, there were some tears.
You don't have to name names. That's fine.
I won't. But there were tears. Someone said
the word bully came out a few times.
He's a bully. You won't like working for him, and it's like, well, you know, people don't hire us to be friendly. They hire us to get them done. As much money as possible, and, you know, and treat them well. I mean, so I think people, you were known as being a shark, and, you know, of course and I think I might be known that way too to some agents. It's, you know, our clients' interests are ahead of our own and anyone else's, and we're hired by the best, you know, because they think we're the best, and we have to, you know, do everything possible to just get the job done in the right way. So yeah, I think people think, you know, I think a lot of agents are intimidated by you, and they said, oh, he's a bully, you're not gonna like working for him. And I was like, it sounds kind of nice, actually. I don't know. I'm not like always the kindest person, but I was like, I don't sugarcoat anything ever, and I'm very honest with everybody, you know, in all aspects of my life, but including clients, you know, sellers, buyers, and I think that's, you know, you and I are total opposites in terms of personality and things, but you're the same way. And you don't sugarcoat anything in your personal life, in your professional life, and my clients love that about me too. You know, I'm honest with them about everything. Yeah. So I think that's probably why we work well together. But I
think your delivery is probably better sometimes than mine. You know,
maybe, yeah.
Sometimes I can be a little bit too blunt and too direct, but yeah, I would agree. How about you, Mia? There's some tears shed. I think you were told not to come work for me, and just anything else you want to share on that? Elaborate on that a little bit. How has that played out?
The opportunity was too big for me to say no. Basically, is what it came down to, and you know, I said, well, he has a wife and he's happily married and he has 2 daughters. Like, how bad can he be? And the more I've gotten to know you over the last 5 years, there's nothing to be scared of or intimidated by on a personal level.
Well, I think a lot of agents get their emotions involved.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Things, especially negotiations, especially expensive negotiations or even non-expensive negotiations. Agents will just get their own, they'll get in their own way of getting things done, and you don't do that. You're like, here's what it is.
Right.
Here's the option. You either do it or you don't. That's how it is. You know, and other agents get so flustered and they get, you know, just they trip over themselves all the time, and they think that we're maybe being mean or not giving the buyer the opportunity, but it's the seller that's making these decisions, and we're just relaying the decisions, and we're of course, consulting our clients on what we think would be the best decision, but at the end of the day, it's their decision that we're relaying to the other party. And so, other agents probably do think really successful, aggressive agents are bullies, or not nice sometimes, but that's
I think
just,
the biggest thing we've learned from you is to take the emotion out of it.
yeah.
And then
I am dead inside now.
at the end of the day, it is just a business deal,
Yeah.
and
It's the single largest business transaction that they're ever going to make in their lifetime, and it's our job to table those emotions and make sure that we get them to make good, logical buying and selling decisions. And I think a lot of agents, to your point, they have commission breath, right? They get into this and they realize the commission check they're going to get at the end of this, and they're trying to do things in the best interest of the commission check and not the client. And I think for us, we're okay with, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're okay with letting a deal go south and moving on to the next opportunity if we don't think it's in the best interest of our clients to move forward with that deal. And I think that we all have share that same value, in my opinion. So, so one of the reasons I started this, you guys know this, is I just became frustrated with the real estate industry, frustrated more than ever. I've always told you, I think the 5% of the agents that are doing, 95% of the business just aren't vocal enough, and I think the 95% that are doing 5% of the business are the ones that are voicing their opinions and so on and so forth. So I think it's time somebody stood up for the industry and looked out for the consumer. So what's your biggest frustration out there right now when working with other realtors, just within the industry right now? What would be your single biggest frustration?
I would say response time.
Responsiveness, lack of response time, just from agents?
Yep, all parties, lenders, other assistants.
Yeah, being unorganized and just bad communication skills. I just showed a house late last night and looked at it this morning, and it's been on the market forever, and it now has an accepted offer. And it's like, why wouldn't you have sent a message out to everybody who just showed this house to say, we just got an offer? Because my buyer would have probably written an offer. And it's like, well, you don't care about the sellers having maybe somewhat of a bidding war, like they just wanted to get it done and over with, especially when it's been on the market for a while. It's sitting vacant, but did you tell the sellers you can reach out to everybody? I mean, it's like something like that, it doesn't necessarily hurt me, but it's
definitely not in the best interest of the client.
It's not in the best interest of their client, and then it also makes me look bad to my buyer when, it as of like 12 hours ago, it was still for sale, and then all of a sudden it just changes and nothing, he couldn't have reached out to me or shot an email. Our system makes it so easy. It's 2 buttons to send a message out to everyone who's looked at it. So that's a little frustrating. Or just agents who, I guess, they just straight up don't know what they're doing. They're part-timers. I mean, they think it's easy, like HGTV, like, oh, we'll show, these 2 people 3 houses, and then we'll go to a restaurant and they'll pick one, and then we'll move on, and it's not like that. And everyone makes it seem so easy. And I think, like you said, it's the agents that aren't actually selling a lot. They're selling maybe 25% of what we do in a year, who are all over social media talking about how great it is. It's all sunshine and rainbows, and it is a fun business and it's an exciting business, but it's a lot of work. It's very stressful, and people, like you said, the people that actually do all the business aren't the ones that are, I don't know.
They take the time to do this, right?
Right. I mean, every time someone's like, oh, I've been thinking about getting into real estate, I'm like, no. I just say don't do it. Yeah, because it takes a really specific personality and mental drive and your self-discipline, and it's the number 1 dropped out career. And I mean, I don't want anyone to look back at me and say, you told me to get into the business, and it's so hard. I mean, and we already have enough crappy part-time realtors, so I don't want to have more of them running around. But
along those lines, what you kind of touched on, you wish the consumer knew and everybody knew how hard it was and how much of a grind it was. I mean, right now we're sitting here in November and you're working 14-hour days, right? What one thing do you wish the consumer knew about our industry or about us as realtors? As we kind of pull the curtain back and expose our business, what is one thing you wish the consumer knew?
For me, the one thing that I wish the consumer knew was it's an extremely unregulated business, considering that it is the business that is selling your largest asset. And I just said this yesterday at a listing appointment, and so many people will just call a realtor or get referred to a realtor and never ask that real estate agent, how many homes have you sold in the last year? They never ask that. I mean, even all the years I've been in the business, I bet you 2 people have asked me, how many homes have you sold in the last year? Or furthermore, how many homes have you sold in this city? In Hanson, Woodbury, whatever. And people don't ask that. It's like, why? It's so weird that the people will do so much research on things, right? Like buying a car, you read consumer, but then when it comes to selling their most expensive asset, they don't do even 5 or 10 minutes of research.
They think every agent is the same.
Right,
does the same job, or has the same
they think
performance.
it's like, and I always say it, people think of realtors like dentists, where like dentists, for the most part, no matter what dentist you go to, they'll find your cavity, they'll fill it, and for the most part, you're always just gonna have the same result, a filled cavity, right? You don't have to go to a specific dentist to do that. They'll all do that, and 99.9% of the time, you're just going to end up with the same result. That's a dentist. And people think realtors are like that. Like, you can just find one and you'll get the same result, and it's scary that people think that, because it costs them huge dollar amounts. It costs them a ton of frustration. And in my consults, when I meet with buyers who are nervous and stuff, I say, well, you hear all these nightmare stories. You always hear nightmare stories. And I said, it's normally when someone has a shitty real estate agent or a really shitty lender. I said, that's what it stems from. It's not anyone else's, and then I always tell them, our job is to make it fun for you, easy, and we soak up all the stress. Like, I take all the stress personally of the deal, and you don't, it's all in the back. You don't hear about it, you don't see about it. And it should be a fun, smooth, easy process. But a lot of people don't have that experience because they just simply don't do their own due diligence as, like I said, a consumer of a service, and I don't know why you wouldn't bother asking somebody some very basic questions on how qualified they are to handle that. So,
Mia, you deal with a lot of different personalities, a lot of admins, a lot of agents. Anything you wish the consumer knew about this industry? That, it's just like, if John and Susie are selling a house, they need to know this.
I think it just stems off of what Dylan said, the level of experience and knowledge. And your example that the agent that didn't fish for more offers, they probably could have made another $10,000, $20,000 on their sale had they had an experienced agent that knew to do that.
So they just don't realize that it's costing them money to work with their friend or neighbor or whoever that they chose as their realtor. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. It's been really frustrating, and I think as more people have gotten licensed this last 15, 16 months, whatever it's been, there's just been, I think it's been hard for a consumer that knows somebody that's a friend to say no to that friend and go with the professional. And their friend is going to cost them money, and it's ultimately probably going to ruin that friendship, right? So, what do you think needs to change in our industry? I mean, if we want to improve and we want to get better, what do you think needs to change in our industry?
Well, I mean, we always say we don't want everything regulated. Everything gets overregulated, but yeah, I think it should be. I think it's maybe regulated too heavily in some areas, our business, but then other, they have weird rules that we have to follow that really don't make much sense, and we talk about those all the time. But then there's other things that aren't regulated that could very easily be regulated that aren't, and that could just
What's an example of something that you think?
Well, just agents being so part-time, or like, everybody who has some type of a job or credential, they always have continuing ed. I mean, our continuing ed is a joke.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't get anything out of it. It's you have to sit there in front of the computer and it tells you how to sell houses to senior citizens or how to work with millennials, who I am. Like, I mean, it's like, and then it's like, okay, I have to sit there for 5 hours and click and then I just do it, get it out of the way. And did I learn anything? Not at all. Like, not a thing, but it's just for your credentials. And not saying I want them to have super intense, rigorous continuing ed for us either, but there should be something,
Somehow weed out the ones that aren't technically qualified to
right.
do this job.
I mean, if you're a part-time agent, I mean, just get out of the business. I just don't get it. But, people might retire and keep their license and just do a quick deal every now and then if it's easy and falls in their lap, and that's a little different. But, these first-time agents, these new agents, like I said, the number one dropped out career. So, and I think this last winter they said more people were going through real estate school than there were licensed real estate agents. Isn't that what they said? So
you could be right.
Yeah, so like however many real estate agents there are right now in the country, there were more than that trying to get licensed. And I don't know if that's because of COVID and people were losing their jobs. And, everybody you ever talk to always says, well, I always thought about getting into real estate. I always thought about it. And it's like, well, yeah, everybody has a midlife crisis where they're like, maybe I should become a real estate agent. But
it's a fallback career, right?
Yeah, totally,
yeah.
right? People think,
I've always said, and it'll never happen, I wish they could have a mandate that you have to do a certain number of transactions a year in order to be in the real estate business, because that's the only way you learn is by going through the transaction itself. It'll never happen. It'll never change. But I think to your point, our education, our continuing education, those things don't teach us the real aspects of this business, right?
Right, and it'll never happen. So it's just a matter of, like I said, consumers of our services doing their due diligence on asking those important questions. Or you can easily go online, right? I mean, most agents have a Google account, a Zillow profile, whatever, and you can see what their ratings are. You can see what their volume, how many homes they've sold. And it's just funny how many people don't even do that,
Yeah. What do you think you guys, and us, why do you think we've had the success that we've had? Is there anything in particular, like if you were mentoring another agent and you'd say, this is something that we've done that has made us successful, or you've done that's made you successful, what would that be?
I think we make the whole process so streamlined and so easy that we just get referral after referral for the most part.
Right.
On top of brand awareness.
But you can't get referral after referral if you're new. So, I mean, what got us to where we are, or me specifically, is...
Well, what I meant was their experience and how easy it was.
Well, looking back, it's just the stuff I did in the first, 6-7 years that I was selling real estate. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I would walk door to door, I would door knock, I would do all kinds of, stupid fluff things to try to, but I mean, I worked hard, and I would have an open house and I would pack my car with as many open house. I mean, I was like riding on the rims, like it was like weighed down, and I had like 18 open house signs. Half the damn county knew I was having an open house. But, I just did a lot, and that sucked, setting up all those signs, and it took up a lot of time, and I had tons and tons of open houses, and, spent a ton of time away from friends and family to build that base for my business. And I still to this day, love having open houses, and I have a lot of them. But I put in the time, and I still do put in the time. But, I had to start my real estate career in a city, in a state that I wasn't from. I mean, I knew nobody. So it's not like I started in my hometown where I had 60 family members and 200 cousins. It just wasn't the thing. So I really had to start from nothing. And I worked really hard and just kept going. So, and like it is by year 5, I think it's the number one dropped out career. I was fortunate that I started so young. I didn't need the money, so I was a college student, for however many years, and so I was able to kind of learn at a good pace, with myself, and then just totally hit the ground running full time once I got graduated. But I think a lot of agents just get into it thinking it's easy, and they think, they can buy Zillow leads. They can throw $500 a month at Zillow, and they're going to get 12 deals, and it's just not the reality of it. So
as we enter into this new, I'm going to call it it's a new era of real estate. I think real estate has changed. I think we've kind of evolved with it. I've kind of dug my heels in on a few things and refused to change. But what advice would you give a buyer or a seller in this new market as we move forward? The buyers and sellers that you're working with, and buyers and sellers that you work with, Mia, what piece of advice would you give them right now?
You mean like when writing an offer?
Just any general advice right now. I mean, when you sit down and have a buyer consult or a seller consult with somebody, for me, I try to just really set expectations, right? I try to really be upfront with them about this is where the market was. It's not like that anymore. This is what it's going to look like when you hit the market, and this is what you should expect. So I think managing expectations is really important. Do you have any bit of advice that you'd give to a seller buyer?
I think that's the number one thing is setting expectations. Because I think people still think today that they're going to get $20,000, $30,000 over asking price, and it's not the case anymore.
Yeah, that was very short-lived, and that's now.
I think the word is still on the street, and they still think that, and it's So expectations is huge.
I mean, it just comes down to, like I said, just having a really good agent. I mean, what they say, like top 10 things to do when buying a house. Number 1, call me. I'll handle the remaining 9, and then you don't have to worry about it. Like, it's like, because if you just have a good agent who can set those expectations and have the communication and work hard for you.
The professionalism, the knowledge, the experience.
Right, and you don't have to worry about anything else, because it like I said, we soak up the stress. We make sure everything happens that needs to happen, and things are done the right way, and we can write an offer and get it accepted without you maybe blindly overpaying. And I mean, it's literally, if you just have a great agent who knows what they're doing, you don't have to worry about anything, because they know what they're doing, and they'll handle it all, and it'll be a seamless transaction.
Okay. So before we wrap this up, you guys know I like to study success. I like to read. I like to study other great entrepreneurs. You guys are both super successful at what you do in your roles. If you were to give one piece of advice, just any advice, to your daughter, to a buyer, to sell, to anybody out there, what it takes to be successful, what would that be?
Hard work, honesty, dedication.
That's a great answer. All of which you have. I mean, you work super, super hard, and you're dedicated to, I think, the growth of our team and the success of our team. And we're beyond honest, I think. I don't think if there was a definition for honest, I think we'd fall underneath that. So how about you, Dylan? Is there one bit of success advice you'd give?
Yeah, I would say, and it's a little cliche because people say you become a accumulation of the top 5 people you spend time with. And, especially if you're talking to someone that's maybe younger, in their 30s, 20s, whatever, just don't surround yourself with people who are complacent, because so many people at any age will just become complacent and not ever work to better themselves. And it's not about money, it's just, do you have any goals at all? I mean, if your friends that you're hanging out with are just going through the motions every single day, and they don't mind getting drunk 4 times a week and laying around, and they're not physically active, and they're just, and again, it's not about money. It could be, but so many people are just complacent, and they'll get into a job that they don't like, and they complain about it for 8 years, and it's like, well, why didn't you start looking 7 years ago for something, for a change or something? And a lot of people just get too comfortable with being miserable, and they don't realize, you can do something about it. And you just have to work hard and surround yourself with other people who also work hard and also have goals and things like that. So I think a lot of people can get weighed down by their circles of people who are also just not successful or don't care to ever improve anything in their life. So I would just say, make sure you surround yourself with people who care about themselves and others, and they themselves work hard, and it really should just come naturally that you'll start to work harder too, So.
I think that's good advice. I think that's why we are so successful. I think that's, we all share some of those same values. And I think that's one of the reasons we haven't grown to be a really big team, is because we know that we're probably going to be judged and brought down by our worst performer, right? So thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. I know this is something that you weren't maybe super comfortable doing. So thanks for sharing your stories. And
you're welcome.
Call us.
Thank you for listening to the Raw Real Estate Podcast. If you have any feedback for this episode, or want to suggest a future topic or even possible guests, head to wadehanson.com. There you can get links to my Facebook and LinkedIn pages. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to see the video version of this podcast too. Again, thank you for listening to the Raw Real Estate Podcast. We'll talk soon.